All right. So, few sort of housekeeping things to go over before we jump into some of the other things to talk about today. Is some of the community has already noticed this, but we are making some small but important changes to the MoonCat branding. Um, and the short version of this is whether the MoonCat's IP is acquired or not, we are going to be defining MoonCat branding as entirely distinct from Ponderware branding. And this is in part just something that we have been planning on doing for a while. But the feedback from our community is Mooncats are not inherently interested in Ponderware's other projects. That being said, if you are, continue to stay tuned because there is going to be a Discord role for you to opt into that will get you into some of that alpha. In terms of talking about any potential Mooncat IP acquisition, things sort of are steadily in the we can't say much about anything going on right now because there are NDAs in line. And so we don't want people to take this as a specific indicator of progress. Honestly, this is something that we have been working towards doing since the start of the year. And we just kind of wanted to tackle it sooner over later. And so, in general, the premise will be all things Ponderware are going to become all things Mooncats. And that includes this every other week meeting. So, Ponderware Presents is soon to become Mooncats Monday. And do expect these sort of presentations to continue on that schedule. And in fact, there was so much stuff that we wanted to talk about this week that we've actually already started the next PowerPoint that we are making, and we will have even more to talk about in a couple weeks' time. And then the last thing that sort of comes out of this housekeeping is the vial is being retired from MoonCat's usage. So if you really had your heart set on that Ponderware vial accessory, you're going to have to butter up Inamelch because he has literally cornered the market on them. All right. Next thing to talk about, it's a party. Woot, woot, woot. So this is something that we talked about in our last Ponderware Presents. But hey, come join us in World Wide Web. You do not need to have used World Wide Web before to get into this party. The party is happening this Friday at Ty, help me out here. What time?
That is happening at 4 CST on Fridays.
The one thing that we do suggest is do log in ahead of the party for a fairly quick introductory quest. It will take you less than 5 minutes to finish it, but nothing's more of a party pooper than let's get to Tashimi. Oh, wait, I have to do this like 2-minute walkthrough of how the start of every Pokemon game goes. So take a couple of minutes, knock that out ahead of time. You will be ahead of the game to jump immediately into the party at Tashimi. Also, if you want to have special accessories on your Mooncat for that party, be sure to set your accessories ahead of time and refresh the metadata on OpenSea. World Wide Web does use your OpenSea metadata for pulling up your Mooncat and their accessories. If your Mooncat is a nudie, don't worry. The walk cycle is actually just a Mooncat without any accessories. You won't be missing out. You can still have either your Bouncy Pouncy Mooncat or your walk cycle Mooncat. So no accessories are needed, but if you're going to dress up, be sure to do that a day or two ahead of time. There will be a raffle for a Relics NFT for attendees. And I even hear a rumor that there's maybe, possibly, potentially a POAP for attending. Cross your fingers. Can't guarantee that yet, but there's things in the brewing. And of course, we're really excited to confirm that there will be a Monster Cat DJ there. So Half an Orange will be live and spinning his smexy tunes. And absolutely everyone is welcome to this. You don't actually need to have a Mooncat to come to this party. So invite your friends. Whether they have an NFT, whether they have no NFTs, whether they have a Mooncat or don't, invite people to come and hang out at the party. It's going to have some rockin' good music. You'll be able to sort of see the interoperability of Mooncats. It's a way to sort of invite people to experience the Mooncats ecosystem before they actually own one. And so there's going to be some pretty snazzy group activities. So please look forward to it and bring your disco balls. Putting Tusk in charge of the conga line. So if anything goes wrong, it's Tusk. Whoop. What happened there? Yeah, all right. Next thing to talk about, the accessories vote and what is happening next. So a little bit of number wang for everybody. Out of a total of 6,366 eligible addresses, 159 wallets voted, which is about 2.7% of the community. 19 MoonCat PopDAO members voted, and all of the votes cast that had a greater than 11 vote weight were vending machine holders. That is good. We think that is demonstrative of the most active, engaged people that have the most investment in the full Mooncats ecosystem. Once we adjusted the tallies, here is the results. So it was pretty evenly off and on, and that on vote was split between vetted or as is. We did end up subtracting 158 votes from that off because it was the same couple of people just voting with a multitude of wallets. And, one of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we had our last Ponderware Presents is we want people to vote and not wallets. So we were just keeping an eye out for those, and they just got pulled off. The ordering of on and off and vetted hold true when looking at large holders alone, as well as small holders alone. The thing that sort of interested us is the top 3 largest MoonCat holding wallets that did vote, all voted for accessories on. And I know there have been some people that came to me and said, well, why isn't one MoonCat equal to one vote? And I mean, that is because we want people to vote and not MoonCats, but also it does basically break down to the same amounts, whether it is a wallet / a person votes or a MoonCat votes. So sort of the question that we pull from this is, did we get a good feel of the overall community sentiment? And here is sort of where we have some concerns. There were over 600 MoonCat holders with 5 or more MoonCats that didn't vote. There were over 400 loot print holders with 5 or more loot prints that didn't vote. And there were 11 MoonCat pop holders with 10 or more MoonCat pop cans who didn't vote. I'm actually 2 of those, so maybe it's more like 9. And there were 51 vending machine holders which didn't vote. Although that amount still puts them much closer in line to the Genesis vote than the broader population of MoonCat holders. The overwhelming piece of feedback we received, both publicly and privately, was, I don't know what vetted means. And we also saw a lot of I didn't vote because. And almost all of those I didn't vote because was I didn't know what vetted meant. So that is definitely something that we are taking as a learning point and are going to address moving forward. But to give you guys an idea, the Genesis Keys burn voters was 21.5% of the full MoonCat community. So what are we going to be doing moving forward? For our next vote, the minimum threshold we want to see for votes is 10%. But ideally, we are really looking for 25% of the community to be voting on these. The one way that all of you can help do that is encourage people that you see in the community to vote. And the other half of that is we never want people to feel, and we need all of you guys to reinforce this message, that we never want to have anybody discouraged from voting if they see that there's greater than 100 votes in a single direction. In the grand scheme of things, across all sets, if you look at acclimated Mooncats, wrapped Mooncats, and unwrapped Mooncats. We have 7,000 wallets eligible. And even if some of those are not unique, this idea that 100 votes is a big number is really not. It's probably 10 to 15 people voting. We also want people to recognize that we're using these votes to measure interest in a DAO. And right now, we're seeing a lack of interest in being part of the decision making. Now, we did see 27.2% of the MoonCat Pop DAO voting. Yay. That is the 25% threshold that we're looking for. But we also want to see that threshold being met by the community as a whole. And so while we didn't feel like any solid quorum was met, we definitely do see a clear trend of I would like to see fewer accessories visible in both voting and overall Discord conversations. So that is going to be the future that we are moving towards. Another thing that we got a lot of feedback on, and we want to make sure that you guys understand we're listening on, is there was no abstain option for this vote. And where relevant, we are going to offer that moving forward. We are going to continue to refine this process, and we really do appreciate everybody's feedback on this. So if there is a part of the vote that you feel like, hey, you did the vote X way, have you considered doing Y in the future? Lay it on us. We are 100% looking for that feedback. Drop that into the cat owners only channel so that it's easy for us to review that and make sure that it gets down into our notes. So what is likely going to happen moving forward is we're going to have a couple of additional votes. And those votes are going to be positioned around, if it's not everything off, how do we decide what is on? And part of that is going to be, we really want to provide that clarity on what deceptive means, because there have definitely been a fair amount of conversations in the Discord. And there are lots of different people using the term deceptive, but they're all using it in a slightly different way. And so we really want to nail down and ensure that we understand when the community says, I don't want accessories that are deceptive, what exactly that means. We also want to take some time to clarify how we're going to handle metaverse integrations. And so 2 weeks from today, when we have our next Mooncats Monday, we're going to have a vote beginning. And we will be doing some prep work on that ahead of time. We will likely be doing some conversations with the DAO and with the moderator team. So know that there is stuff happening sort of behind the scenes a little bit, but that things are moving. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about today is the MoonCat liquidity pools, because these sort of get discussed a little unevenly in sort of the community, broader community. And I feel like this is one of the strongest things that MoonCats has in terms of moving people in and out of the community when they feel urgent need to sell their MoonCats. So first, a sort of quick catch up of what are liquidity pools. Liquidity pools are a selection of NFTs, in this case MoonCats, that are held together for a flat price at an entry level cost. And the sort of simplest way to think about it is a liquidity pool makes a non-fungible asset like a MoonCat fungible. But the cool thing is occasionally there may actually be surprises waiting in the pools. We have seen twins, clones, special IDs, character cats. All of these things get moved in and out of the pools. And so we want you guys to consider those as like potential places that you can pick up MoonCats, either for keepsies or for moving around. And the idea is the MoonCats in a pool, while individually distinct, are considered close enough in value that they are counted together as a single whole. And when Midnight and I were talking about how do we explain this, he was like, "Oh, it's like a diamond. You know, all diamonds have a 4C." And I'm like, "Yeah, cat, 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 and cat, right?" What are the 4Cs? Cut, color,
Clarity,
clarity,
fairway.
and
Yep.
carrot. Yeah, there we go. I never remember that. And it was sort of interesting because it ended up having sort of interesting discussion about why we pick the cats that we do. For example, my um, engagement ring is actually a diamond that has like a very obvious flaw in it. So it would not actually be considered a good diamond, according to the 4Cs. But I love it because it ends up giving the shine that comes off of it and sort of the setting of it a totally different look than any other diamond that I had seen. And so that's why I picked it. And I feel like there's so many stories like that inside of Mooncats where Tusk actually owns the absolute least rare Mooncat in existence.
That according to the traits from, yeah, what is it? Rarity
Uh,
tools that,
on
yeah,
Mooncat
the
Pro.
ranking,
Yep.
or even on the MoonCat Pro, yeah, ranking site too as well.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and
So to tie it back to that example of like the diamonds, it's the we can have experience in the real world of if you went to a jeweler or if you went even to, a general marketplace to say, "Oh, I'd like to see a collection of diamonds that are all worth about $100." And like someone could put that collection together and yes, each of those individual diamonds would likely have different traits or different, of their 4 Cs. Some might have, great color and less clarity and some might go the other way around. But that concept of even though every individual diamond in the real world is unique, we can think of it as an NFT with 4 traits, you can put together a pool and say that everything in this pool is approximately the same value. But each individual person might say, "Oh, I don't actually care about trait 1, I care about trait 3." And therefore, the things in this pool might be unevenly weighted, and I see one that I really, really want in here and consider it much more valuable than the base rate.
so other things that are novel about liquidity pools is um, the Mooncats that come out of them are purchased with a token. And what this token is and what it represents will vary a little bit from pool to pool. Those tokens represent a fraction of a Mooncat. And so if you have people that come into the Discord or you see people talking about being interested in buying Mooncats on Twitter, but they can't afford one right now, definitely guide them towards these tokens because it is a great way to save up for a Mooncat a small amount at a time. And if the price of ETH or the price of Mooncats fluctuates, you still, in general, will have saved up more than if you just had raw ETH. The thing to keep in mind is the number of tokens in circulation will vary depending upon the number of Mooncats in the pool and the way that sort of it makes the non-fungible Mooncats a little bit more fungible is you can deposit for immediate payout and then convert those tokens received to ETH. So if you see people that are in the buy sell channel or on the Discord in general that are like, I need to get rid of my Mooncat in a hurry, um, 99% of the time you guys have been awesome in like educating people on like, hey, you can just put it in the pool and then sell your pool token for ETH immediately, and that doesn't tank the floor. Continue to do that. That is very, very helpful and healthy as a community. And I just want to say for the people who have been doing that, I see you. You're awesome. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and in fact, I might even hand this off to Midnight, is we wanted to brainstorm a little bit so that we all kind of understood who would use a liquidity pool.
Sure. And I could take that part on too. Is yeah, it's recognizing that a liquidity pool is a tool, and indeed the whether there's this pool of assets and these ERC20 tokens that represent them, it's then the question of yeah, what sort of investors or what sort of people can get something out of it. And we did already sort of touch upon that first one of if you're the sort of person or you see someone coming in asking questions of that they're in the state of I wish to own a Mooncat eventually, but can't afford one right now. It does give the option to buy the ERC20 token associated with the pool and just hold that pool token and slowly accrue more of those over time, buying as much of the fraction of the Mooncat as you can over time. And eventually you would be getting to the amount that would allow you to pull one of the assets out of the pool. And that's one where you could also, just save up your ETH. But if the floor price of the thing you're trying to acquire, you're thinking is growing faster, this would be an option to say, oh, I want to basically get the IOU for the actual asset and accrue slowly that way. The second one is also the sort of thing that we see fairly frequently of a person who has a Mooncat who wishes to sell it right now. Whereas if you were to put uh, a sell offer on OpenSea or LooksRare, you could put it at a level that was below everybody else, which yeah, undercutting the floor price as that's often gone by. Um, but it still depends on amount of time that it would take for someone to pick that offer up or some of the platforms like LooksRare and OpenSea do have the ability for people to place bids on individual assets, or LooksRare has the collection bids. But if your individual asset does not have a bid that is acceptable to you, selling it to the NFT pool is another option, which can be higher than any of the bids that are currently on it. So that should always be considered another option of if time is of the essence, that you can sell. The pool is always willing to buy and sell from and it doesn't wait for a bid or an offer to come in. And then we have the next class of sort of interested parties who might be interested in the MoonCat project overall, uh, but might not be as interested in holding an individual MoonCat. The one thing to realize of when you add a MoonCat into the pool or are just buying the ERC20 pool tokens, it is an IOU for a MoonCat from the pool, but it is no longer an IOU for a specific MoonCat from the pool. And so if a person is just generally wanting to say, hey, I think this project is going to be around for the long haul, um, I personally, as an investor, aren't as interested in picking out or knowing like which individual NFT with its intricate, traits and whatnot would be something that would hold value long term. They can simply buy the pool token on something like Uniswap or Sushi sorts of things and just hold that particular token. And some of the pools do offer farming rewards for just holding the pool token as well. And so that's one where you can have part of your portfolio or investment be in the general concept of a project without necessarily it being assets in the project, if that appeals to you. And then the fourth one there that the pool offers an ability to swap one for one. Often, if you're trying to do hey, I've got one that doesn't quite resonate with me, but I see someone else has one that does, you might be able to form an individual trade with that person to say swapping one to one. But that's usually a more manual process. There isn't an option for that, like on OpenSea or LooksRare, to say, hey, I'm offering you this other Mooncat for your Mooncat. It would have to be like a private message for that. The pool always allows you to swap one for one. Usually they have some sort of a UI to just say, "Hey, I've got this particular Mooncat, and I see that one in the pool. I wish to swap the two to allow that to happen directly." Um, and then that same piece of if you currently hold a Mooncat or a sort of person who does have one, uh, but they're none of the ones that are in the current pool are of specific interest to them, they can deposit the Mooncat into the pool, not necessarily in exchange for ETH. Some of the UI will, by default, automatically swap whatever you deposit directly for ETH, uh, assuming that the default action that people would have is wanting to sell. But the other is if you're wishing to just say, I want to get kind of in-store credit piece of it. I wish to return this one, and at some later point in time, I wish to pick out a different one. That is option as well. When you deposit, choose the option to get the pool token back as opposed to ETH, and then you'll still have that IOU for a Mooncat for the future. And that same piece of then if you wish to give someone a Mooncat as a gift, but you don't want to have to pick it out individually, or you think it's a nicer thing to let them pick for themselves, the pool tokens are essentially gift certificates in that sense, that you could gift them enough to pick out their own from one of the pools. And Pause has some experience with that, as that was her first acquisition as well.
Yeah, so I very tongue in cheek, saucily uh, got a signing bonus, which if I stayed with the team a certain amount of time, I would then be able to get a MoonCat. And so when that particular instance happened, for those who were around back then, I got to pick a MoonCat from the NFT 20 pool, take it through the acclimator, buy it some accessories, and that was a ton of fun.
There we go. And that last option there and it seems like can be a fairly common situation for an investor in like an NFT project to grab a bunch of an asset and then say, "Oh, I've got a few that are my favorites that I'm going to hold on to that are my personal ones," and then a few others from the collection, which in your own portfolio you're thinking of them as oh, I might part with them at some point in the future, but not right now, and I don't intend to do anything with them for the moment. An option can be, instead of just being idle in your wallet, because these NFT pools do have some farming options that you can actually earn interest on it. It might be of interest to you to take a look at possibly depositing those into the pool and staking the pool tokens for rewards. Because if they're just going to be sitting idle in your wallet anyway, that would be an option to at least accrue some rewards for it as an option.
So, we want to talk specifically about three of the potential pools that you can withdraw and deposit Mooncats to right now. And the first one is NFT 20. This was sort of the original first sort of Mooncats pool out there. And there is both a unofficial wrapper MCAT 20 pool as well as an acclimated wrapper Cat 20 pool. Um, and again, just want to emphasize that if you need to sell a Mooncat in a hurry, or if there is someone in the community who needs to sell a Mooncat in a hurry, this is the way to do so, without bottoming out the floor price, or if you are worried that they are like, I need to ape into the next thing this absolute second, and I will crash the floor to whatever value I need to get this thing sold. Definitely point people actively towards these pools. 100 cat 20. I don't know why I can't pronounce that for the life of me. Is one moon cat. The one thing that you will want to keep in mind is there is a 5% tax for depositing. You used to be able to circumvent it by recommending yourself as the depositor. And as far as I have been able to tell, NFT 20 did tighten up that loophole, and you cannot get back that extra 5. The one thing that NFT 20 does that really is not well supported in other places is Dutch auctions. And Midnight, do you kind of want to explain the concept of a Dutch auction?
Sure. The Dutch auction is sometimes referred to as kind of a reverse auction. A standard auction is usually has an opening amount that the person who's selling the item wants to do, and then for a length of time, people place a bid for it to go higher. A standard auction, you start at say 1 ETH, next person has to go 1.1 ETH, next person has to go 1.3 ETH, and after a certain amount of time, when there's no more people willing to go higher, then the item sells. That sort of an auction does have a time limit, and you kind of have to wait and see until nobody else comes. As a or so as a process, it can get drawn out if there is actually some interest, and individual bidders can go back and forth. A Dutch auction reverses that idea, and starts with a very high amount. So you might say the asset starts at like 10 ETH, and the price drops over time. So it automatically, through whatever time period you'd like, the price then goes down. And so it may go from 10 to 9.5 to 9.25, 9.1. And the idea is the very first person who says, "Oh, yes, it's worth that. I will jump on it now and buy it for the current price before it drops any further," then gets the asset. So it's nicer in that you don't end up with a bidding war back and forth or waiting to see until interest dries out. It also allows people to see at a glance if it's still there, or if the asset is still up for sale. It can be grabbed. The moment someone expresses interest, then it's gone. Piece of it there. the fact that NFT 20 offers Dutch auctions denoted in Cat 20 instead of in ETH allows you to do things like say, if you have a Mooncat that is not quite what you would consider a floor one of whatever you know basic sort of Mooncat is in the NFT 20 pool, which from that second bullet there is worth 100 Cat 20. You might say, oh, this one has some individual traits that I that generally are found to be slightly more desirable. Like we've seen the pure coated ones go for slightly more, and the or possibly character cat ones be, or maybe a borderline character cat might go for slightly more. So like I, as the current holder of it, say, well, it's probably worth, 1.25 times floor, which would end up being 125 cat 20. So you can actually set a auction to be able to say, well, maybe let's start it at 500 cat 20, just to give some time for people to assess it and have some time to watch the numbers go down. And then whenever it gets down to a level that people or you as the owner can the start and the end point. So if you say start at 500 and go down to 110, and then at some point along there, if someone feels, oh yeah, it's actually worth 1.3 times floor or 130 cat 20, they may grab it when it's then at 130 cat level. So a way to be able to auction off a Mooncat in terms of its relationship to the basic floor price.
Um, the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of Cat 20 is it is backed by Uniswap liquidity. Do be careful when you're selling your tokens that you're not using liquidity on other platforms because it will probably not have adequate liquidity. Also, Cat 20 staking is retired. So if you are one of the early people to that platform and you had staked in your Cat 20 or your MCAT 20 to an APR farm, be sure you get back to that site sooner or later and pull any tokens you have out of that staking because there is no longer an APR on that. All right. So NFTX has actually two pools. And so I'm going to have Midnight once more and talk about these.
Sure. So can do so NFTX as an entity is similar to NFT 20, that they both provide this tool, the liquidity pools. They have NFTX has the separate website. The basic pool is the one that has an ERC 20 that's called MoonCat, and generally denoted in all capitals to distinguish it from MoonCat camel cased, which is the asset itself. The NFTX pools have the ERC20 at a 1-to-1 ratio with the asset. So one MoonCat, all capitalized, equals one MoonCat actual cat asset, as opposed to the other one we were just looking at, where 100 cat 20 equals one MoonCat. So this one, just be aware of the ratio that it is now a 1-to-1. One ERC20 equals one ERC721. NFTX also utilizes SushiSwap as their preferred agent for providing liquidity. So if you're looking to just acquire the MoonCat token, Sushi is the place that their website directs you to, or you could go to Sushi directly to look for that. Similar to NFT 20, the NFTX site does have a tax or a fee on each one. So while ideally one MoonCat ERC20 token equals one MoonCat ERC721, in order to pick a MoonCat from the pool, you do need to have slightly more than 1.0 MoonCat token. One of the features of NFTX is they do also allow you to have a random pick from the pool, which is slightly cheaper than saying, oh, in the pool, I see this specific Mooncat, I would like that one. So currently, the way the fees are set for that pool is if you go to that pool and say, oh, I would just like a Mooncat, please, give me one randomly. If you have, the swap for that would need to be 1.04 of the MoonCat ERC20 token. And if you see a specific one that you want, it goes up by 2% of a fee to 1.06. So in that case, for this pool, having 1.06 of the MoonCat ERC20 is like a gift card or an IOU for exactly one MoonCat from that pool, which, again, the Mooncat assets that are in each of these pools do change regularly. Um, and so if you are holding the ERC20 token, it is a gift card that could be redeemed at any time for any of the cats that are currently in the pool. We have seen that, yeah, some of the twin assets and many with different accessories do show up in that pool fairly regularly as people drop them off in there. So if you're interested in that particular trait, take a peek over there. And yet, as it has been or while OpenSea continues to command a lot of the notice for people wishing to buy and sell, the price difference between buying um, a Mooncat out of this pool compared to OpenSea does lag behind a little bit. So there is oftentimes some good opportunities for arbitrage or just being aware of it and to take a peek at it and keep an eye on it, um, especially during high volume periods because they can be a little bit behind and might get you a better deal that way.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. Um, The NFTX application also does have farming options to stake and then earn some sort of a profit on the MoonCat token, and actually all of the ERC20 tokens that they have for their pools. The one unique thing that FTX has that NFT20 didn't have, even when they were doing farming, is that NFTX allows you to stake either the liquidity on Sushi or just the MoonCat token itself, which is called single-sided staking. Um, so this gets into a little bit of a different technical description. When you're talking about staking liquidity, the idea of if you are a liquidity provider, as a general term, which can be done on Uniswap, on Sushi, on lots of those sort of automatic coin swapping tools, the concept of becoming a liquidity provider is one where you put down two tokens that are in relation to each other. For this particular one, it would be ETH and the MoonCat token. Becoming a liquidity provider usually means you get some sort of reward from the swapping tool, mainly when people say, I have MoonCat and I wish to get ETH, and they actually make a trade using your liquidity, or going the other way, I have ETH and I wish to have MoonCat token, fraction of what they are giving in stays as profit for you. However, if the market prices for those two tokens go out of sync with each other, basically if one goes up and the other goes down, uh, a person who or investors who are providing liquidity can have what's called impermanent loss. Basically, the ratio that you still have of those two tokens, if you were to say, I'm done providing liquidity, give me my assets back, what you actually get back would be a different ratio of how much MoonCat token versus how much ETH you get back out. The how much you get back out depends on what those assets did in the time that you were the provider. It's a whole separate topic of being a liquidity provider, but what the basic information you need to know is there is a bit more risk when you become a liquidity provider. You're taking a gamble that the price between those two will remain relatively the same for the long term, or that it'll crab walk between two different values. If the prices go up or go down dramatically, you might end up being a little bit less profitable than if you had just held on to the two without being a liquidity provider. Because there is a little bit more risk in being a liquidity provider, usually the farms give a little bit more reward to counteract that risk. And indeed, that's what it is here with NFTX as well. If you provide liquidity on Sushi for ETH and MoonCat, they will then give you a large portion of the fees that they collect when people swap MoonCats from the pool. So again, back to that idea from the third and fourth bullets of people need to give a little bit more than 1.0. And so if they pick a specific Mooncat and the 1.06 gets spent, the 0.06 then becomes a reward for everyone who has provided liquidity um, and has staked it in NFTX. It is also possible to, instead of saying, oh, I don't want to risk losing my Mooncat token, I wish to always have, say you have achieved 1.06 and you have essentially an IOU for one Mooncat, and you want to say, I always want to have at least that. I don't want it to ever dip below 1.06. You can stake that single-sided at NFTX as well. When you stake it single-sided, NFTX gives slightly less of a reward because it's lesser risk, but you still are gaining some of the fees off of activity on the pool. So that is another option, that you can stake it single-sided as kind of a more conservative but slow and steady sort of uh, investment option. But again, not financial advice. It is one that is taking or it would then be profitable when there is large activity on that pool, as those fees from people swapping for either random or specific Mooncats then get distributed for amongst everyone who has staked into the NFTX farm.
And so the second pool is a much newer pool. And we have talked the last couple of presentations about community champions and how we want you guys to feel empowered to, if there is a thing you want done in the Mooncats ecosystem, that you guys have the support from us, whatever that means, to go and do it. And so this new pool for 2017 Mooncats was put together by the community, led by Cat Dad and OX Meow, and there's quite a number of people that have deposited into it and put some liquidity into it. And so this specific pool on NFTX is exclusive to only 2017 Mooncats, which means Mooncat 0 all the way through Mooncat 3364. And it follows the same rules that buying from the broader Mooncat pool does, which is you can buy a random Mooncat from that pool at a discount, which is 1.05 MCAT 17. If you want a very specific Mooncat out of that pool, it is a little more expensive, 1.06 MCAT 17. And again, this pool is backed by Sushi Swap liquidity. So if you are going out and buying the token, that is where we recommend you do so. And similar to the broader Mooncat pool, MCAT 20 does allow you to have single-sided staking, which means that if you are staking MCAT 17, the amount that you get later will be equal or greater to the base amount that you deposited. You're not guaranteed to make money, so not financial advice. But anytime someone buys out of that pool, that's where that extra 0.04 goes towards, is people that are creating this staking liquidity. And so you can earn interest on your MCAT 17 token. And again, the single-sided staking allows you to put in just the token as opposed to the more typical type of pool liquidity, where your deposit will fluctuate between ETH and the token and may not be equal by the end of things. And so as part of this, the Mooncats team is going to be depositing their own set of Mooncats into the 2017 Mooncats pool this week. Which Mooncats those are is still being figured out. So stay tuned for announcements on that side. And then sort of as a general note, we do plan on promoting this pool moving forward, so expect to hear more about this sort of concept of liquidity and single-sided staking and what is a pool and how does it benefit the community. All of these things are sort of topics that we are going to be continuing educating on in the future. And we invite the community to educate alongside us, because it is very helpful hearing these messages from other holders in the community. It just makes, someone who is newer to the community or needs to, get liquidity immediately, to hear it from someone who is not a team member. So that is everything that we had to talk about today, because I did want to leave a little bit of time at the end for people to ask questions.
Robert asks, how's the team doing?
I'm okay. One of my cats is sick, which makes me sad. But waiting to get some test results back from him, and hopefully he will be better soon.
Jeeves asks, how many Mooncats are you thinking will be added to liquidity? Jeeves, we're thinking 2 to 3.
For the
We're
2017 pool. Yep, specifically.
Yeah, specifically for the 2017 pool, we're looking at depositing 2 to 3.
hmm And again, so that one, just for clarification for people of the 2017 rescued cats are eligible for that pool. Technically, 27 rescued Mooncats are also eligible for the other pool. That's the idea that if there is a pool where one of the qualifications to get into it is you must have this particular trait, and that trait has been more highly valued by the marketplace and the community, in general, that Cat 17 token will then end up being more valuable than the Mooncat token. So if you could get, if a particular Mooncat is able to earn 1.0 MCAT 17 for being deposited into the specifically 2017 rescued pool, that's a more wise thing to do than putting it into the generic Mooncat pool and just getting 1.0 Mooncat token for it piece there.
Ken says, did you ever think you'd be presenting on ARB opportunities for digital cat tokens? And no, Ken, I didn't, and I'm still waiting to wake up.
It's like, yes, this is the part of the aspect of being in a brave new sort of digital economy and place to be, and even the idea that the tools themselves, the NFT 20 and NFTX tools, like haven't been created by Ponderware or a specific NFT collections team. They're created by another third party. As like that's what's part of it being part of the Ethereum ecosystem and the blockchain ecosystem in general is these sorts of things of tools can evolve independently and be able to say, oh, yeah, we have now taken a look at these. We looked at these other teams' code. We've seen them to be stable. They've been utilized across many different projects. Sure, yeah, let's promote them. They, as a project, are not taking any platform fee out of it. It's purely going to, for example, the Mooncat token. Uh, Interest that's going to the individual stakers, NFTX does not take any platform fee out of that. That they themselves sometimes do invest in different pools, piece of it there. But yeah, we can then look at these different projects from other teams and be able to say, yes, this builds upon the things that we've made. They didn't need necessarily our permission to make it, and now that they've made it, it we've looked at it and it's a quality product. So yeah, we're happy to to talk about it.
Meow asks if it's possible to provide ETH liquidity as well to the Mooncat 17 pool.
I think that's something we can consider as a part of it, and might be just something we can keep an ear out for in the future.
Oh, yes, and shout out to Beautiful, who is the name that I totally blanked on. Every time I do a list of names, I'm always missing somebody. So, shout out to Beautiful, who was also um, instrumental in getting that MCAT 20 pool going.
Question, does anyone know who bought the Genesis cats? I saw a bunch got sent out to different addresses after acquisition.
Do you want to sort of give the teal dare on that, Midnight?
Sure. For that one, the UGMC collection was a vault that was slightly different than like an NFT pool that we've been talking about. They were a collection that was organized by a group of Genesis holders voluntarily put their Genesis cats into a fractionalized vault. Collectively, they're called Red Cave Ventures. It was that group. They recently decided to unvault those Genesis Mooncats, and a large number of the people uh, who originally put the Genesis Mooncats in decided to also be the ones to bid to take them back out again. There were a few who wished to not take their Genesis Mooncats back out, and so there were a few additional other people who then bought and became new Genesis holders. So a lot of the people who uh, got a Genesis Mooncat with that dissolving of the UGMC collection were people who were Genesis holders before. They were just the ones who put them in the first place. But I believe it was 4 individual ones went to new Genesis holders. I think. Oh, yeah, and there's a question on Logan Paul on a white Genesis Mooncat. Yes, he did purchase a white Genesis Mooncat last year, I believe. Was that one? And I've not personally tracked to see. I believe he
He
still holds it.
does. And in
Yep.
fact, he has a MoonCat pop vending machine as well.
Mhm.
So if you are interested in having a Logan Paul soda, pop.mooncat.community.
On the question there, Ken Dog of Can Paws be minted? Well, Paws also has a vending machine. So yes. Yeah, there are a
Ken
few of
actually
the
has one of my pop cans.
Yep. There are a few pop cans that that are Mooncats that have the Ponderware visor that were generated by Ponderware staff members. So yes, if that is something of interest to people, there are a few of those.
We've been talking with Ken about potentially integrating MoonCat Pop into the Pixel Map game.
Ooh.
Alpha.
All right, I think it looks like that's the majority of the questions that have come through.
Fantastic. Thank you everybody for coming today. We always appreciate it when you guys come and hang out with us for the hour. If you guys end up coming up with questions after the presentation, the Ponderware Presents channel is going to get renamed to MoonCat Mondays very shortly, and it will get slotted back under the community heading. Anything on ZooDAO, they are working on some internal testing at the moment. And so I believe Mark on the Ponderware side of things is going to be working with them to do some testing to make sure that things are working in terms of. Sorry, my lady in the can got set off somehow. Yeah, so Mark is in their testing. I'm going to be making sure that everything is working on the MoonCat side of thing. They are a little bit behind where they originally thought they would be. So know that that has definitely been on our mind, and we've sort of just been subject to their schedule. But we are looking forward to it. We are looking forward to hearing more. All right. Thank you everybody for your time today. Like I said, we always appreciate it when all y'all show up. And we will be back in 2 weeks for our next Mooncats Monday. I'm talking about the next vote. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks much.
We'll see you soon.